I grew up in a house where things seemed to be in order. A small family, a loving mother, a hardworking father, and present grandparents. The photos on the wall showed smiles, vacations, and birthdays. From the outside, everything seemed perfectly normal, but I always felt there was something more. It wasn't an isolated incident. It was a series of small cracks, as if the air inside that house held an echo that no one wanted to acknowledge. Sometimes she would ask simple questions. Why don't I have aunts like my friends? Where are my cousins? And the answers were always similar. Our family is small. We've had many losses. Don't talk about it. It's not important. It was a mild feeling at first, like when you feel someone watching you from an empty room. It's not scary, but it's unsettling. I remember a birthday. I was about 10 years old. I found a box in my mother's closet. It was full of old photographs. In one of them, there was a young woman in a white dress with her face covered in flowers. I didn't recognize her. I went to show it to her, but my mother turned pale. She took the photo from my hands and said, almost without looking at me, "That's from the past. It doesn't matter." I never saw her again. And from then on, I noticed how certain topics were avoided, how they changed the channel when scenes of sisters hugging came on, how my mother closed her bedroom door more often, how my father lowered his voice when talking on the phone. It was like living in a beautifully decorated house, but built on empty space. As I grew older, I stopped asking. I learned to live with that lingering feeling. But there were times, especially at family gatherings, when the absence of certain people weighed more heavily than the presence of others. It was a table with chairs that were never used, a story that seemed to have pages torn out. If this story is resonating with you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. And although I didn't understand what was bothering me, something inside me knew that, sooner or later, I was going to find out what they were hiding from me. It was during a summer cleaning, many years later, that I found her face again. I was helping my mother tidy the attic at my grandparents' house. She didn't want to go up there. She said the dust gave her allergies. So I went alone. Among moldy books, boxes of old toys, and folders of school papers, I found a photo envelope marked with smudged ink, 1994. I sat down on the floor, carefully opened the envelope, and there it was again. The same woman in the photo I saw as a child, but this time, there were more pictures. In one, the woman was holding a baby. In another, she was posing next to my mother, both smiling, young, and alike. Very alike. Too alike. I studied her closely. Her expression was gentle, her eyes familiar. For a second, I felt she was looking at me, not from a photograph, but from a corner of my own blood. I took the photos to my mother. I didn't say anything at first. I just put them on the kitchen table while she made coffee. When she saw them, her face changed. She lowered her head. She remained silent. "Who is it?" I asked. She did not answer. "Why do you never talk about her? Why is she nowhere to be found?" My mother exhaled deeply. "Her name was Teresa," he finally said. "She was my sister." My world stopped for a second. "You had a sister? And you never mentioned it?" He died many years ago. It was very difficult for everyone, but there was something in her voice that didn't sound like grief. It sounded like fear, like guilt, like those emotions that can't be spoken aloud. "Why are there no pictures of her at home? Why did no one ever mention her? Not you, not Dad, not Grandma and Grandpa. Because that's what we decided. Because it was better that way." I didn't ask any more questions. At that moment, I understood that I had opened a crack, and that if I kept pushing, something important was going to come out. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, revisiting every memory of my childhood with fresh eyes. Where was Teresa when I was born? What was her relationship with me? Why was she so carefully erased? And above all, what could have been so serious as to make a sister disappear? The next morning, I tried to resume the conversation as if it were casual. "What was Teresa like?" I asked while we were washing the dishes. My mother tensed up. It was complicated. Nothing more. That word, spoken coldly, made my stomach churn. It wasn't the description of a dead sister. It was a judgment. A dry summary of a life that seemed to deserve nothing more than an adjective. "And why did you never talk to me about her? Not a single story, not a single photo, not even a memory?" "Because it wasn't a good memory," she said. And she went back to drying the dishes. as if that were enough to close the subject. But it wasn't. I started asking other people. My grandmother, who was very old and confused names. My father, who only said, "That hurt your mother a lot. It's best not to bring it up again." They all dodged. They all lowered their gaze. They all had a different excuse, but the same objective, to stop him from searching. And that only made me search more. I reviewed old family documents, albums, records, but Teresa seemed to have vanished from the official record, as if she had never existed. The little that remained were loose clippings, stray photos, torn letters. Until, in a forgotten box in the garage, I found something that wasn't meant for me. An old book. One of those hard-bound diaries that women used to use to jot down things about the day. Inside, among pages with recipes and shopping lists, there was a folded sheet of paper, handwritten in a different script. "Dear Terry," she began. It wasn't my mother's. It was another woman's. And what she said changed everything. But that came later. At that moment, I knew that what I had felt all my life wasn't paranoia. It was intuition. And that, although I didn't yet understand the magnitude of the hidden, it was clear that my story wasn't complete. There were missing pieces. And the most important of all was Teresa. That letter seemed to be waiting for me, as if it had been hidden for years, only to fall into my hands at the right moment. I picked it up carefully. The paper was yellowed, its edges creased with age. The handwriting was curved and cramped, written in blue ink. It didn't say the writer's full name, just a signature. L. Dear Terry, I don't know if I'll ever write to you again. I don't know if this letter will survive the fear we all carry inside, but I needed to leave these words somewhere, even if it's in a book that no one will ever open. I miss you, and it hurts to know that no one says your name. That in that house, your photos were stored in boxes, your memories silenced as if you were a disease, a disgrace. You weren't that. You were light. You loved someone your family didn't accept, and that's why they kicked you out. It's that simple. Not for anything you did wrong, for being you, for having the courage others lacked. I stopped. My heart was pounding. I kept reading. Lucia still hasn't forgiven you. I don't think she ever will. But you didn't do anything to deserve that punishment. You were brave. You were a mother. And they took everything from you. Even her. That's where I stopped abruptly. You became a mother. I felt the ground opening up beneath my feet. I reread that sentence 3 times, and the echo in my head was deafening. Mother? She? Was Teresa a mother? My breathing quickened. My hands felt cold, as if everything I knew about myself was suddenly crumbling. The letter continued. I don't know if she'll ever know who you are, if she'll ever be able to learn the truth without hating those who raised her. But if anyone finds this, I hope they know that you loved her in silence, that you never forgot her, that you were invisible to them, but not to me. I didn't finish reading. I lay on the floor, holding the letter in my hands, trembling, because, for the first time in my life, I felt that someone was speaking to me from a place much deeper than memory, from the truth, and that truth was only just beginning to show itself. I didn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned in bed, the letter under my pillow, as if having it nearby could protect me from the collapse I sensed was coming. At 6 a.m, I got up, made coffee, and waited for my mother to come down to the kitchen. When she did, I only had to look at her to know that she had also slept badly. I placed the letter on the table, folded, without saying a word. She recognized her instantly. His face didn't show surprise. It showed defeat. "Where did you find her?" he murmured. "It doesn't matter. I just want you to tell me if it's true." Silence. "Was Teresa my mother?" I asked. The question came out in a whisper, but it echoed like a gunshot. My mother closed her eyes. She placed a hand on her chest. And then, in a trembling voice, she said what I didn't know if I needed to hear or feared. Yeah, the world stopped. All the air in the kitchen disappeared. All the warmth of the coffee turned to ice. "Why?" I whispered. "Because it was what was best for you," she said. "Because she wasn't ready. Because she chose someone who shamed us. Because she was alone. Because Dad didn't want a daughter born into that situation. Because she signed the papers. Because I could give you a more stable life. Because we were all afraid." The words fell one on top of the other, without order, without logic. as if he were trying to build a wall with the rubble of what he had done. "And you thought hiding it from me would be better?" I said, holding back the trembling in my voice. "I thought you'd never know. I thought it would hurt you. I thought you might hate us." "I didn't need to hate them," I replied. "It was enough not to know who I was," my mother cried. For the first time in many years, I saw a broken woman in her. Not the strong mother, not the rigid figure, a sister broken by guilt, an adoptive mother who had loved, yes, but also hidden. And her? Where is she? Is she alive? He left years ago. I don't know if he's still alive. He never contacted us again. The letter burned in my memory. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand more. Another part just wanted to cry, because my story had been written with different ink, because I wasn't the daughter of the person I thought I was, because for years, the woman who gave me life had been silenced, erased, hidden behind a story constructed for the comfort of others. But that story was no longer enough for me. After that conversation, I began to experience a kind of split in two. On the outside, I was still the same, the woman who worked, who cared for her aging mother, who went to the market on Thursdays. But on the inside, I was someone else. A newborn with borrowed memories, a daughter without a map. I couldn't stop thinking about Teresa. Where was he? What did his voice sound like? How did he walk? Did he have my laugh? Would he have hugged me differently? My questions were endless, and each one seemed to have an answer that had been lost in time. I went back to the attic. I looked for more boxes, this time with a different perspective. I wasn't looking for photos anymore. I was looking for signs. And among old books and forgotten bags, I found a blue folder, unlabeled. Inside, documents, loose letters, a medical notebook, and a sealed envelope, addressed to L. I opened it with trembling hands. It was another letter, but this time written by Teresa. "Dear Laura, thank you for not forgetting me. I know that to others I'm a mistake, a disgrace, but you were always a light. I don't know if my daughter will ever know who I am. I don't know if she'll ever be able to forgive me for giving her up, but I want you to know it wasn't out of cowardice. It was out of desperation. They took everything from me. My rights, my name, even my voice. Lucia told me it was for the best, that I would grow up better with you, that I would never have to know. But every night, I wondered if one day she would feel the same as me, the emptiness. I cried like never before, because that emptiness, that echo that had accompanied me all my life, had a name. It had roots. It wasn't imagination. It was blood. It was loss. Among the papers, there was also a newspaper clipping, a small note about a woman who disappeared in the south of the country. Years ago. No leads, no bodies. Teresa. Was it her? Is he gone forever? Is she still alive somewhere? With another identity? With another pain? Don't know. The only certainty is that my story was cut in half, that a family was silenced. A branch of the tree was pruned without permission, and I grew up believing I was a unique branch, when in reality I was the fruit of a trunk I never knew. My mother had given me incomplete answers. I knew that the deepest part of the truth was still hidden, perhaps because it hurt too much, perhaps because she still felt she had to protect something, or someone. I decided to look for my father. I hadn't seen him often since they separated years ago. Our relationship had always been cordial, but distant. And now, more than ever, I needed his side of the story. I called him. I asked to meet him at a neutral cafe, not knowing how the conversation would begin. I brought the letter with me. I didn't plan to show it right away, but I needed it close, like an anchor, like proof that what I felt was real. When he arrived, I knew that something in him already knew. He looked at me with a mixture of nostalgia and resignation. "I don't know how much your mother told you," he said, as we sat down. "The truth is only half true," I replied. "I know Teresa is my biological mother, that you raised me, that she disappeared, and that no one wanted me to know anything." He looked down. He picked up his coffee cup without drinking it. "It was a difficult time," he murmured. "Your mother couldn't bear Teresa making such different choices. She fell in love with someone your grandfather never accepted. When she became pregnant, all hell broke loose. They pressured her to give up the baby. Your mother offered to raise the child. It was a family arrangement, a silent one, a cowardly one. And you?" I asked. "What did you do?" He looked me straight in the eyes. "I allowed it. I didn't stop it. I didn't protect Teresa. Or you. I was weak. I thought it would be for the best, that you could have a life without conflict. But now, all I know is that I failed you. Her eyes filled with tears. It was the first time she had seen anything in him other than that mask of calm that always surrounded him. "I'm not your biological father," he said. "I always knew that. But I saw you take your first steps. I took you to school. I was a father to you as much as I could be, even though I wasn't your father by blood." The world became blurry for an instant, not by surprise, but by confirmation. It was true, all of it. The woman who gave me life was silenced. The one who raised me, loved me in her own way, but from a place of guilt. And he was part of the pact, a pact that robbed me of the right to know who I was. But I also understood something. I didn't need any more lies, or any more explanations, just the freedom to rebuild myself, with all that messed up past on the table. Because, although the truth hurts, lies suffocate, and I, for the first time, was breathing. I returned home with the letter in my bag, my father's voice still vibrating in my ears, and my heart pounding as if I had just emerged from a storm that had been brewing for years. Everything I thought I knew had changed, not like a violent collapse, but like an old skin peeling away, slowly, inevitably. My mother was in the kitchen. When she saw me come in, she didn't say anything. She just looked down. I didn't say anything either. It wasn't necessary. Not anymore. I locked myself in my room and turned on the lamp. I took out all the old photographs. I looked at them one by one, searching my own eyes for traces of her, of Teresa, searching for gestures, shapes, fragments of DNA that love had hidden for years, and I found them, in my crooked smile, in the arch of my eyebrows, in the way I hold my gaze. That night, I wrote in my diary, like when I was a teenager, but with the awareness of an adult woman who no longer needs others to tell her who she is. I wrote, "I have the name I was given, but I come from a story that was never told to me. I was the daughter of a woman who was erased, raised by another who tried to save me in her own way. I lived in a theater without knowing I was acting, and today, finally, I leave the stage." The liberation didn't come like an explosion. It was a long exhalation, a finally, that came from the soul. I don't know if I'll ever find Teresa. I don't know if she's alive. I don't know if she would remember me. But I know that from now on her name will live on with me, because she existed, because he loved me in silence, and because although others chose to silence her, today, her story has a voice. Mine. Today I look back and understand that I did not live a fake childhood. I lived an incomplete childhood. A mother was missing. A story was missing. A truth that belonged to me was missing, but it was buried out of fear, shame, and the decisions of others. I don't hold a grudge, not out of weakness, but because I understood that silence is also born from pain. My adoptive mother, the woman who raised me, protected me in her own way, but she also denied me a part of myself. My father accompanied me, but he also hid behind a piece of paper that he didn't quite know how to hold. And Teresa was erased, but I rescued her. In every letter, in every memory, in every silence that I decided to break. And if you, who are watching this, have ever felt that something in your story didn't fit, that there are pieces that others don't want to show you, that you live with an emptiness you can't name, listen to me. You're not crazy. You are not on the route. You're only close to the truth. And the truth, even though it hurts, it always brings you back to yourself.